for everybody watching, how exactly did you meet Mr. George Lucas?
It came about because I was on a film with the designer John Barry in Mexico on Lucky Lady, and George had presented Star Wars to Alan Ladd, who I'll put it up. Let's frame this story. The studios had lost their audience, so Universal took Steven Spielberg as a young filmmaker. MGM took Francis Ford Coppola. Alan Ladd took George Lucas, and they thought they would get a new whole audience and revive their box office. Well, to Alan Ladd's nightmare, George turned up with a science fiction children's fantasy script, and the Fox wouldn't do it. So they analyzed the film would make $12 million. And in those days, they divided it by 3. So they told George, if you can make your movie for 3, Alan Ladd said, for $4 million, we'll make it. Gary Kurtz had got the budget down to 8. In America, there were no stages free. In England, there were stages free. We were suffering at that point, and we were exactly half the cost of America. So the head of Fox in London said, we can do the film here. Gloria and Willard Huyck wrote part of American Graffiti for George, and they were dear friends of his. They wrote some of the dialogue actually in Star Wars for him, uncredited. They wrote Lucky Lady, and we'd become great friends, John Barry and I, with Gloria and Willard, and we were converting old Mexican buildings into rum-running era sets. And they said to George, look, these two, they're doing exactly what you want. So he flew down to meet John and I with Gary Kurtz, and he turned up on the set. I was creating a salt factory because it was very valuable in those days, salt, digging salt around with shovels, and George picked up a shovel to talk with me while he was doing it. That's typical of George. And then when he said, I'm trying to make the science fiction movie, I was deadly honest and said, you know what, I've never related to one. I love science fiction. I read a lot, but I've not got an inkling of why they're always so over-designed and don't look believable. So, and I kind of said to him, you know, I imagine spaceships like they should be old and used and oily and dripping like liquids and banged up where the owners have kept it going and repaired it. And it was only in August, finally, when I got back to London, that I just realized I described the Millennium Falcon in detail, because even in the script, it says this is a pile of junk. So John and I got hired on the spot and were told to be in London in August, which we did, and had a meeting with 20th Century Fox and found the entire budget was $4 million, which meant the art department to build this massive science fiction film was like, I think, $600,000. It was nothing. And there was no time, and Fox weren't committing. So George paid, and we set up in a tiny little London studio for 4 months, just John Barry, myself, and an art director, Les Dilley. And that's where it all started.